weather is finally cooling off here in Texas, and that means it is time to get to the outdoor projects that I have been avoiding all summer. And today, I am working on adding storage shelves to this outdoor storage closet. This is the perfect place for storing seasonal decor and outdoor stuff. When we go into the winter, I need to move it in. So we're going to be adding some simple storage shelves all the way up to maximize the space in this closet. Since we're working on an outside project, it's easier to just bring the shop to where you're working instead of having to make lots of trips back and forth. So I've partnered with Kreg to use their mobile project stations to create an outdoor workspace that is going to make working outside a lot easier. Now, these outdoor workspaces are great for anybody that is maybe working to do all of your projects out of a garage or in a small space, because you can move them and set them up, create a space for you to do any project that you're working on, and then they fold away and go back in the shop or a garage when you don't need them. To build these storage shelves, I'm going to start by creating a frame out of 2x2 lumber, and then I will put 1/2-inch plywood on top of that, and that will create shelves. I've done all my measurements and sketched out exactly where I want the shelves to go, and I've spaced them so that they will perfectly fit the exact totes that we want to use in this storage space. Now, because we're outside, I do not have easy access to outlets, so I'm going to be using the battery-powered circular saw to do all the cuts for this project. And I'm going to be using the integrated Automax clamp that comes with the mobile project station. That way I can create my measurements on my 2x2, clamp it nice and snug, and then I don't have to worry about this board moving as I make all of those cuts with the circular saw. And to start, I've already taken my measurement of the back of the storage cabinet, and I'm going to cut a piece of 2x2 that will span that entire length of the shelf, and then we'll go inside and get that attached. For the bottom tote, I need to have a 20-inch gap from the floor to the bottom of the shelves, but because my frame is going to be 1.5 inches thick, I actually need the top of the frame to be 21.5 inches. So I'm going to make that mark. Then I'm going to use a level to do a level line all the way around, and I'll double check to make sure that I'm at least 21.5 inches at all spots level to that, and then I will attach the board to it there. And I'm going to be using 2.5-inch Kreg pocket hole screws to attach the wood into the wall, and I want to make sure that that goes into studs. Typically your studs are 16 inches on center. In here, it's actually really easy for me to see where my studs are because this wall has not been painted, so I can easily attach right into the studs. Now, because I'm using a 2.5-inch pocket hole screw and I have a 1.5-inch frame, a 1/2-inch sheetrock, that's only putting it into my stud about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to be using the Kreg quick flip, and that will pre-drill into the wood about 1/2 inch, and then I will attach this. It will also countersink that head and hide it nicely into the wood. Next up, I'm going to do the same exact thing for the back over here. Now I'm going to be creating an L shape with these shelves around the edge of the closet. We're leaving the one side open for tall stuff, but we're going to take these shelves on two sides of the closet all the way up. So I'm going to now measure and cut a piece to do the back on this side. I'm going to add a couple pocket holes so I can attach it into here, because I'm not necessarily going to be able to attach the edge into a stud here because the stud is hidden behind this 2x2. So I'll attach it all the way along on this side, just like I did the backboard, making sure that it's nice and level and flush with the top of this. Once that board is installed, we're going to do the edge pieces here. Now this is going to be the side of the shelf, and I'll cut that minus the 1.5 inches for the back of the frame and the 1.5 inches for the front of the frame. Since my shelves are going to be 16 inches deep, I'm going to cut those 13 inches, and I'll cut one for each edge of the shelves. And again, those are going to be attached with pocket holes, and then I'm also going to try to attach it into the wall with a screw into the studs, so I have support on all three sides of the shelf from the back into studs into my walls. Both side pieces are in, and I put pocket holes on both sides of it, because next I'm going to create the front of the frame. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure in front of the side piece, and on this short L, I'm going to run that right into the back one. So my measurement just shy of 37 and 3/8. I'm going to use pocket holes to attach the front of this L into the back, and then I'm going to use the pocket holes that I already drilled on the side to attach the front there. Then I'm going to do the same exact thing on the long side of the L and measure from the front of the side all the way to this piece that I'm going to attach. The first frame is built. It's nice and sturdy. That's going to be able to hold a lot of weight. And later I'll add a brace in this corner for added support here at the front. Now the next step is to repeat this process and add the rest of the frames for all the other shelves I'm going to be doing. Now it is important to note, so I'm going to do a 13-inch space between the rest of the shelves. When I do that, I need to make sure to take into account the 1/2 inch for the plywood that's going to sit on top of this, and then of course add that 1.5 inch when I'm looking to level off the top of my frame. And that'll make sure I have adequate spacing for the bins and things I want to store on all of my shelves. All the frames are built. We've gone all the way up to right at the very top. We got another about 15-inch section up there, which is a little harder to get in and out of, but it's going to be great for storage of things that you don't need to access very often. Now I was going to be putting a 2x2 right here in the corner and securing it into this frame. But after assembling, this corner is super strong. The weakest point is actually on this long bar right here. It's got a little bit of give, but for what we're going to be storing, it's going to be totally fine. If you want to build shelves like this, where you're going to be storing lots of heavy things, you could add a support by putting a 2x2 just directly in front of that weaker point and screwing it in. Make sure that it is balanced on the floor, and that will just help support any sagging weak spots on shelves, especially if you're doing a really long span. But we're just going to leave the frames as is and move on to cutting plywood for the shelves. One of my favorite features of the Kreg Mobile Project Station is perfect for cutting plywood, especially cutting down full sheets. And that are these little doohickeys, I don't know what we would call them, that they comes with the project center. It's kind of like a little T-slot that is going to go in our track. So to cut the plywood, I'm just going to drop down the sides. So I have this set up like a sawhorse. And I have attached those little slots to the back of a 2x4. And I've just cut a single 2x4 in half, so I have two 48-inch pieces. And then you slide those right into the track on top. And now I have a sacrificial 2x4 that will perfectly balance a full sheet of plywood, and I can cut right down it, and I don't have to worry about cutting through my project station. And I actually made these for the headboard video that I just finished. So I'm just storing these sacrificial 2x4s along with my mobile project center, and so I can pull them out whenever I need them. I've attached the back shelf. I did this one the full length of the shelves, and I just tacked it in with a couple finishing nails just so that it doesn't move around. Now I have not scribed this to the back or anything. These are storage shelves. I have a small gap in the middle because typically your corners are going to be a little narrower from all of the sheetrock mud that is required to make those flat. So I do have a small gap, maybe about 1/8 of an inch. I'm not worried about it. If you are, you could always caulk that or scribe your shelves so that they do fit in nice and tight. So next up, I'm going to measure for the L piece, and I will attach that. It will be supported on all three sides, with being a small shelf, should be fully supported. Then I'll continue to cut and add the plywood top all the way up. This may not be the prettiest reveal picture, unless you're someone like me who gets really excited about organization. Then it's pretty awesome how much stuff I'm going to be able to fit into this small closet. And it was really great to be able to bring the Kreg Mobile Project Centers and create a workspace on site. That saved me from having to make lots of trips back and forth as I was cutting each piece to fit this space. And we've barely touched the surface for the Kreg Mobile Project Centers and all of its features. It makes a great flat surface to create an assembly table, to sand or complete finishing, as well as a great place for cutting. And right now, the Kreg Mobile Project Center has a new lower price, so it's no better time than now to add one or two to your shop. And if you like this tutorial, make sure to follow along at housefullofhandmade.com for many more things to build to organize your home.